When most people think of arthritis, they imagine worn-down joints or aging cartilage, something mechanical like a rusty hinge. But what's really happening inside those joints is something far more alive and fiery. It's inflammation. The body's alarm system turned up too high for too long. And one of the biggest triggers pouring gasoline on that fire every single day is sugar. Not just the kind you stir into your coffee, but all the hidden sugars and refined carbohydrates that sneak into our diet disguised as comfort food. When we eat foods like white bread, pastries, sweetened yogurt, or even that so-called healthy granola bar, the sugar from those foods quickly floods the bloodstream. Your blood sugar spikes like a roller coaster, and your body has to scramble to bring it back down. To do that, it releases insulin, the hormone that helps shuttle sugar into your cells. But here's the problem: every time that happens, a series of tiny inflammatory sparks are lit inside your body. Over time, those sparks merge into a slow, steady flame that fans the pain and stiffness in your joints. That's why some people wake up in the morning feeling swollen or achy after a night of just a little dessert. Think of your body like a beautiful, finely tuned orchestra. When it's in balance, every instrument, your hormones, your immune system, your metabolism, plays in harmony. But sugar throws that orchestra into chaos. It's like having a drummer who's pounding too fast and too loud. Everything else starts to go offbeat. The result: inflammation rises, tissues get damaged, and your body's natural rhythm of repair and renewal gets drowned out by noise. One of the most damaging processes behind this is something called glycation. When sugar molecules float around in the bloodstream and bump into proteins, they stick together. Over time, they form sticky, hardened compounds called advanced glycation end products, AGEs for short. These AGEs act like tiny shards of glass in your tissues. They stiffen collagen, weaken cartilage, and make your joints less flexible. So instead of your tissues gliding smoothly, they begin to grind and ache. It's the biochemical version of pouring syrup into your car engine. Everything starts to gum up. Let me share a simple story. A woman named Claire, in her mid-50s, came to understand this connection the hard way. She had been struggling with arthritis for years. Hands swollen, knees aching, and she was relying on painkillers just to get through the day. She loved her sweet tea and her afternoon muffin and didn't think much of it. But after learning about the inflammation-sugar link, she decided to cut out added sugars for a few weeks. No cookies, no soda, no white bread. Just that one change. Within 10 days, she noticed her morning stiffness wasn't as bad. After a month, she could walk her dog again without wincing. Nothing else had changed. Not her medications, not her exercise routine, just her sugar intake. That's how powerful this one shift can be. The science behind it is actually quite fascinating. Every time blood sugar spikes, the body releases insulin. High insulin levels don't just move sugar around. They also send inflammatory signals throughout the body, telling immune cells to produce cytokines. Cytokines are chemical messengers that, in small amounts, help us heal. But when they're constantly active, they begin to break down tissues instead of repairing them. That's what happens inside arthritic joints. A flood of inflammatory cytokines that keep the immune system in a state of overdrive. It's like an army that never stands down, constantly firing even when there's no enemy left. What makes things worse is that sugar often travels with refined carbs, foods stripped of their fiber, vitamins, and minerals. White rice, white bread, pasta, pastries. They digest so quickly that your body experiences the same blood sugar surge as if you'd eaten a candy bar. Without fiber to slow absorption, glucose hits the bloodstream in full force. That's why people often feel tired, bloated, or inflamed after a big carb-heavy meal. The crash that follows doesn't just leave you craving more. It also keeps your body stuck in a cycle of inflammation. But here's the good news: every time you replace refined carbs with whole, fiber-rich foods, you begin to calm that fire. Fiber acts like a gentle sponge, slowing down how sugar enters your bloodstream. It gives your pancreas a break, your insulin a chance to settle, and your joints room to heal. Instead of fueling inflammation, you start feeding repair. When you reach for nature's sweets, things like berries, green apples, and citrus, you get antioxidants along with natural fiber. These antioxidants help neutralize the free radicals that sugar creates, protecting your cells from oxidative damage. Imagine your meals as messages to your body. A slice of cake whispers, inflame. A bowl of berries says, heal. Every choice becomes a signal, and your joints are listening. You don't have to cut all sweetness from your life, you just need to choose the kind that nourishes instead of punishes. Swap out the sweetened drinks for sparkling water with lemon, replace white bread with whole grains, trade desserts for fruit with cinnamon or chia pudding. Each of these small swaps rewires your metabolism, quiets inflammation, and gives your body a chance to renew itself. So the next time your joints ache, don't just think about painkillers or supplements. Think about what's on your plate. Food can be your most powerful anti-inflammatory medicine. You have more control than you realize. Tell me in the comments, what's one sweet swap you're willing to try this week to start cooling down that internal fire? When it comes to arthritis, most people look at sugar, salt, or even stress as the main culprits. But very few realize that one of the biggest drivers of chronic inflammation could be sitting right in their kitchen cabinet. The oil they cook with every single day. The bottles labeled heart healthy or cholesterol free may seem innocent, but many of them are quietly feeding the flames of inflammation inside the joints. Canola, soybean, corn, safflower, sunflower. These refined vegetable oils have become staples in modern cooking, yet they carry a hidden cost that our ancestors never faced. They've changed the very chemistry of our bodies from the inside out. Every cell in your body is built from fat. That's not an exaggeration. The membranes that surround your cells are made of fatty acids, and those fats decide how flexible or fragile those cells will be. Now imagine what happens when most of those fats come from highly processed vegetable oils. These oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids, a type of fat that, in small amounts, the body actually needs. But when consumed in excess, omega-6 turns on inflammatory pathways that make your immune system overreact. It's like your body's internal thermostat for inflammation gets stuck on high, leading to swelling, stiffness, and pain in the joints that never quite goes away. To understand this better, let's look at the balance between omega-6 and omega-3 fats. Our ancestors used to eat these two types of fats in roughly equal amounts, about 1 to 1. Today that ratio is closer to 20 to 1, 20 times more omega-6 than omega-3. That's because vegetable oils are everywhere in dressings, fried foods, chips, baked goods, and even healthy snacks. The result: our bodies are swimming in inflammatory fats but starved of the anti-inflammatory ones that keep the system calm. Omega-6 fats tell the body to create cytokines, the same inflammatory messengers that make arthritis worse. Omega-3s, on the other hand, help cool things down, reducing pain and protecting cartilage. But when one voice drowns out the other, inflammation wins every time. Think of your joints as small campfires that occasionally spark up. A little inflammation is part of healing. Omega-6 fats are like lighter fluid. Omega-3s are like water. When your diet is flooded with processed oils, you're dousing your campfires in lighter fluid all day long, and soon everything's burning hotter than it should. The flames of inflammation spread silently, first in the gut, then the liver, then the joints. Before long, that persistent ache or swelling isn't just age or genetics, it's chemistry gone wrong. What makes these oils particularly sneaky is how they're made. To extract oil from soybeans or corn, manufacturers use high heat, chemical solvents, and deodorizing agents. This process damages the delicate fats, creating oxidized compounds that act like free radicals in the body. These unstable molecules attack cell membranes, damage DNA, and trigger immune reactions that worsen joint inflammation. The irony is, many people switch to vegetable oils thinking they were better for their heart, but over time, they've ended up with more systemic inflammation and pain. Now, imagine for a moment that your cells are tiny balloons made of fat. If those balloons are filled with weak, damaged oils, they lose flexibility and pop under pressure. But if they're made from strong, stable fats, the kind you get from olive oil, avocado oil, or fatty fish, they stay elastic, responsive, and resilient. The fats you eat literally decide how your body feels, moves, and heals. When your cells are made from healthy fats, your joints feel smoother, your energy steadier, and your inflammation quieter. Let's paint this picture. One person cooks most of their meals with canola oil and eats out a few times a week. Fried foods, salad dressings, processed snacks. Another person uses extra virgin olive oil for cooking, adds avocado to salads, eats salmon twice a week, and sprinkles walnuts over breakfast oats. The difference in how their bodies handle inflammation is night and day. The first person's immune system is constantly on edge, while the second person's is calm and balanced. It's not luck, it's chemistry responding to the fuel you give it. There's a reason Mediterranean diets, rich in olive oil, nuts, seeds, and fish, are linked to lower rates of arthritis, heart disease, and cognitive decline. Olive oil, especially extra virgin, is packed with antioxidants and compounds like oleocanthal, which works almost like a natural anti-inflammatory drug. Avocado oil provides monounsaturated fats that protect the heart and joints. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel supply omega-3s that help your body make anti-inflammatory molecules called resolvins and protectins, nature's way of turning off inflammation once the healing is done. And walnuts, they're tiny inflammation-fighting powerhouses, balancing the omega ratio and nourishing the joints from within. Shifting away from processed oils doesn't happen overnight, but every small change counts. Swap your frying oil for avocado oil. Use olive oil in salads and drizzle it over cooked vegetables. Snack on a handful of walnuts instead of chips. your body will start to rebuild itself from the inside out, one cell at a time. Within weeks, people often report less joint stiffness, clearer skin, better digestion, and more steady energy. The body is remarkably quick to respond when you feed it what it's been missing. What's powerful about this is that you don't need more pills, painkillers, or complicated diets to calm inflammation. You just need to change your fat source. Once you give your body better building blocks, it knows exactly how to heal. The secret isn't in cutting out all fat, it's in choosing the right kind. You can think of it as replacing cheap building materials with high-quality ones. The structure becomes stronger, more flexible, and longer lasting. Everyone's pantry tells a story about their health, so take a moment, look at the oils you're using every day, and think about what they're doing to your joints and your energy. Small choices make big differences over time. I'd love to know, what oils are you cooking with most often, and are you open to trying a healthier swap this week? You might think your morning bacon is harmless, a quick, satisfying bite before the day begins. It's salty, crispy, comforting. But deep inside, beyond the taste, something very different is happening. That same bacon, along with sausages, deli meats, and even charred steaks, can silently stir up inflammation and damage the delicate tissues that cushion your joints. The reason lies in a group of compounds called advanced glycation end products, AGEs. These molecules may sound like something out of a chemistry lab, but they form right in your kitchen every time food is cooked at high temperatures, grilled, fried, or processed. AGEs are what give brown food that irresistible crispy texture and smoky flavor. They're part of why roasted meats and barbecued ribs taste so good. But here's the trade. Often these compounds build up inside your body. They attach themselves to proteins, fats, and DNA, changing their structure and function. It's like coating your tissues with a sticky varnish that makes them stiff and less flexible. Over time, this sticky buildup damages the collagen in your joints, the same protein that gives cartilage its smooth, cushiony feel. Once that cartilage stiffens or breaks down, joints start grinding instead of gliding. The result is pain, swelling, and the creaking stiffness many people wake up with each morning. Inside your body, these AGEs also trigger oxidative stress, a kind of chemical rusting that weakens cells. They activate immune pathways that release inflammatory cytokines, the same culprits that flare up arthritis. It's as if every time you eat heavily processed or high-heat meats, you're throwing sparks into a room already filled with dry wood. One meal might not make a difference, but years of those small sparks keep the fire of inflammation alive. You can't always see it right away, but you feel it. That dull ache, the lingering stiffness, the fatigue that creeps into your day. It's not just bacon or sausages. Even red meats cooked at high temperatures, seared steaks, burgers, grilled lamb, can become major sources of AGEs. The darker and crispier the meat, the more these compounds form. The same process that makes food delicious to the tongue can make it destructive to the tissues. Researchers have found that people with higher AGE levels in their blood tend to have more inflammation, oxidative stress, and faster joint degeneration. That doesn't mean you have to give up all meat. It means being mindful of how it's prepared and how often it appears on your plate. Think about it this way: your joints are like shock absorbers lined with a thin layer of cartilage that's designed to glide smoothly. When AGEs accumulate, it's as if someone poured glue into that smooth surface. Every movement becomes rougher, less fluid. This stiffness doesn't just age your joints, it accelerates it. Your body has to work harder to repair the damage, but when it's constantly fighting oxidative stress, it can never fully catch up. There's also the issue of processed meats being loaded with sodium, nitrates, and preservatives. These compounds not only contribute to inflammation, but also alter the gut microbiome, the community of bacteria in your digestive system that controls immune balance. When the gut becomes imbalanced, inflammation spreads systemically, often showing up in the weakest or most overused joints. That's why diet affects arthritis so powerfully. It's not just about the joints, it's about how your entire system responds to what you feed it. Let's imagine a different kind of breakfast, one that helps your joints instead of hurting them. Picture a bowl of lentils cooked with herbs and olive oil, or a smoothie with collagen-rich bone broth, spinach, and berries. These foods feed your cells instead of irritating them. Lentils and legumes are packed with plant-based protein and antioxidants that neutralize free radicals before they can damage tissues. Bone broth supplies collagen and amino acids like glycine and proline, which rebuild cartilage and improve joint flexibility. Wild-caught fish such as salmon or sardines are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, nature's own anti-inflammatory medicine. Instead of adding to the fire, they help cool it down. Even small swaps make a difference. Baking or stewing meats at lower temperatures creates far fewer AGEs than grilling or frying. Marinating meat in lemon, vinegar, or herbs before cooking can reduce AGE formation by up to half. Adding spices like turmeric, rosemary, or garlic provides antioxidants that protect cells from oxidative stress. When you cook with intention, slow, gentle heat, and wholesome ingredients, your food becomes medicine, not a trigger. It's also important to look at how often meat takes center stage in your meals. Many people eat processed or red meat daily without realizing how much inflammation they're accumulating over time. Shifting to more plant-based proteins, seafood, and collagen sources gives your body a break from the constant inflammatory load. Your joints respond to that shift almost immediately. You feel lighter, more mobile, less inflamed. There's something deeply empowering about knowing that every bite can either feed inflammation or fuel repair. You don't need to follow an extreme diet or give up everything you love. Just begin with awareness. Look at what's on your plate and ask, is this healing me or harming me? The body is incredibly forgiving. The moment you reduce the intake of processed meats and replace them with cleaner protein sources, your system begins to reset. Imagine your body rebuilding itself one meal at a time, your joints slowly regaining their flexibility, your mornings starting with less stiffness and more energy. That's not wishful thinking. It's biology responding to better fuel. You can still enjoy the flavors you love. It just means choosing versions that love you back. When your protein heals instead of harms, your joints begin to breathe again. Most people don't realize that what's happening in their gut often shows up in their joints. You can eat something today that doesn't upset your stomach at all, yet a few days later your knees ache or your fingers feel stiff and swollen. That's because the gut and the joints are deeply connected through inflammation. When the lining of your gut becomes damaged, tiny particles that were never meant to escape, bits of undigested food, bacteria, and toxins, start leaking into the bloodstream. Your immune system spots those invaders and launches an attack. And where do many of those inflammatory signals end up? In the joints, the very places where arthritis pain takes hold. This is the hidden link between what's on your plate and the stiffness in your body. Your gut is the gateway to your immune system. It's lined with a thin but powerful barrier that decides what gets in and what stays out. Imagine it like a fine mesh filter that allows nutrients to pass through but blocks harmful substances. When that lining is healthy, it protects you. But when it's constantly irritated by stress, antibiotics, or processed foods, or in this case, gluten and refined grains, those tight junctions begin to loosen. The barrier becomes porous like a net full of holes. That's what doctors refer to as leaky gut. Once that happens, inflammation doesn't stay contained, it spreads like a slow-moving storm traveling through the body. Gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, and for many people, it acts like sandpaper against the gut lining. Even if you're not officially gluten intolerant, gluten can trigger a mild immune response that increases intestinal permeability. Think of your gut wall as a fortress, and gluten as the battering ram that slowly weakens its defenses. Every time you eat highly processed bread, pasta, or pastries, those microscopic cracks widen a little more. Through those cracks slip inflammatory molecules called lipopolysaccharides, which then circulate through the bloodstream. When they reach the joints, they act like sparks landing on dry grass. They ignite inflammation, swelling, and pain. It's not just gluten itself that's the issue, it's also the way modern grains are processed. Most breads and cereals today are stripped of their fiber and nutrients, bleached, and loaded with additives. These refined carbs digest quickly, spiking blood sugar and insulin, both of which add fuel to the inflammatory fire. And because they lack the fiber that feeds good gut bacteria, they leave the microbiome starved and unbalanced. When the balance between beneficial and harmful bacteria tilts, the gut lining becomes even more fragile, letting more toxins slip through. Over time, this constant assault keeps the immune system on high alert, turning what should be a calm internal environment into a battlefield. You can think of your immune system like an overprotective security guard, always scanning for threats. When the gut leaks, that guard starts attacking anything that looks suspicious, including your own tissues. In arthritis, this often means the immune system begins targeting joint cartilage, mistaking it for an intruder. That's why people sometimes experience flare-ups even when they haven't injured themselves. The body's defenses are simply misdirected because the gut barrier has broken down. The good news is your gut lining can heal, and when it does, inflammation throughout the body begins to cool down. The first step is to reduce or eliminate gluten and processed grains that irritate the gut. That doesn't mean you have to give up grains altogether. It means choosing ones that nourish instead of damage. Quinoa, buckwheat, millet, and certified gluten-free oats are gentle on the digestive system and naturally anti-inflammatory. They provide fiber that strengthens the gut microbiome, feeding the beneficial bacteria that help repair the lining. When those good bacteria thrive, they produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which act as fuel for your intestinal cells and help tighten the barrier once again. Picture it like repairing a fence. Every time you eat whole, unprocessed food, you're fixing another plank. Every time you eat refined white bread or sugary cereal, you're knocking a few loose again. Over time, those small choices decide whether your gut acts as a wall of defense or a leaky gate letting in troublemakers. Many people who struggle with arthritis notice dramatic improvements after just a few weeks of going gluten-free. The swelling in their fingers lessens, their energy rises, and they wake up feeling less stiff. It's not magic, it's biology working in their favor. Once the gut is no longer bombarded by gluten and processed grains, inflammation has nowhere to hide. The immune system calms down, and the joints start to feel relief that no painkiller can mimic. What makes this connection so powerful is that it gives you control. You can't change your age or your genetics, but you can absolutely change what you feed your gut. Every meal is a chance to either irritate or restore. Choosing anti-inflammatory grains, adding fiber, rich vegetables, and supporting your gut bacteria isn't just good for digestion. It's the foundation for healthy joints, clear thinking, and balanced immunity. When your gut is strong, your whole body follows. Your energy is steadier, your sleep improves, and your joints become more forgiving. The body was designed to heal, but it can only do that when the gut is sealed and protected. That healing starts with awareness, knowing that something as simple as the bread on your plate can influence how your knees feel tomorrow morning. The next time you notice stiffness after a meal, pay attention to what was in it. You might be surprised how directly your joints respond to the foods you eat. Have you ever noticed less stiffness or swelling after cutting out gluten or switching to whole, unprocessed grains? I'd love to hear your experience. It might just inspire someone else to start their own healing journey. For many people, dairy feels like a comfort food, a splash of milk in coffee, a slice of cheese on toast, a creamy bowl of yogurt in the morning. It's familiar, soothing, and for some part of childhood nostalgia. But for others, that same comfort can quietly feed inflammation, stiffness, and joint pain. The connection between dairy and arthritis isn't always obvious, but in sensitive individuals, the proteins and hormones in conventional dairy can act as hidden triggers that keep inflammation alive. What feels like nourishment on the surface may, for some, be creating an immune response deep inside the body. Dairy contains a protein called casein, and while it's harmless for many people, it can act like an irritant in others. Think of your immune system as a gatekeeper, trained to spot invaders. When casein enters the gut, a sensitive body may mistake it for a threat, sending immune cells into action. These immune cells release inflammatory chemicals that don't just stay in the digestive tract. They circulate throughout the body, including the joints. Over time, this repeated immune reaction can make arthritis symptoms worse, leading to more swelling and pain after dairy-heavy meals. It's not that the body is allergic, in the classic sense, but rather that it reacts with low-grade inflammation that adds up slowly, like drops filling a bucket. There's also another layer to this story: the hormones naturally present in milk. Conventional dairy, especially from cows treated with synthetic growth hormones, can contain traces of these compounds. Even in small amounts, they can subtly influence the body's own hormonal balance, affecting insulin and inflammatory pathways. This hormonal disturbance doesn't cause arthritis by itself, but it can make existing inflammation harder to control. People who already struggle with autoimmune conditions or joint pain often notice they feel puffier, more bloated, or itchier after dairy, without realizing that hormones and casein together might be the reason. But not all dairy is created equal. Traditional fermented dairy, things like kefir, yogurt with live cultures, or aged cheeses, behave very differently inside the body. During fermentation, beneficial bacteria break down much of the lactose and partially digest casein, making it easier for the body to process. These probiotics act like peacekeepers in the gut, calming inflammation and strengthening the intestinal barrier. When the gut wall is strong, fewer inflammatory molecules leak into the bloodstream, which means fewer immune attacks on the joints. It's the difference between pouring fuel on a fire and sending in a team to rebuild and cool it down. Fermented dairy, when well tolerated, can actually support joint health instead of harming it. There's a woman named Elena who once shared her story in a wellness group. She had dealt with chronic arthritis pain for years, mostly in her hands and knees. Her days started with stiffness that made even holding a coffee mug painful. She used to drink 2 glasses of milk a day, convinced it was helping her bones. But after reading about the link between dairy and inflammation, she decided to experiment, not eliminate everything, just observe. For 2 weeks, she replaced her regular milk with unsweetened almond milk, cut out cheese, and swapped yogurt for kefir. Within that short time, she noticed her joints felt lighter, her swelling decreased and her energy improved. She said it felt as though someone had taken sandpaper out of her joints. When she reintroduced regular dairy, the pain returned within days. That simple trial changed her relationship with food completely. For people like Elena, switching to dairy alternatives can make a noticeable difference. Almond milk and oat milk provide a smooth, mild taste without the inflammatory proteins. Coconut yogurt offers creaminess with the added benefit of healthy fats and probiotics. Cashew milk is rich and neutral, perfect for cooking or coffee. For those who tolerate some dairy, choosing fermented forms like kefir or plain yogurt with live cultures can be a middle ground. They offer gut-supportive bacteria that help restore balance rather than trigger inflammation. The goal isn't to label dairy as good or bad, but to understand how your own body responds to it. What makes this relationship between dairy and inflammation so personal is the gut's role as the control center for immunity. If the gut is inflamed or imbalanced, even small irritants like casein can set off a big reaction. But when the gut is healed and the microbiome diverse, the body can handle occasional dairy without issue. This is why fermented foods make such a difference. They add good bacteria that help regulate immune responses, reduce inflammatory signals, and protect the gut lining from damage. Over time, these subtle shifts lead to less pain, more energy, and greater flexibility. It's also important to look at what dairy replaces in the diet. When people remove milk and cheese, they often end up eating more vegetables, nuts, seeds, and omega-rich foods. These naturally contain antioxidants and anti-inflammatory fats that nourish joints and tissues. So part of the improvement may come not only from what's removed, but from what's added: more color, more fiber, more life-giving nutrients. It's like clearing out a cluttered room and filling it with fresh air and light. If you've been living with arthritis or inflammation that seems to come and go without reason, it might be worth experimenting with dairy for a few weeks. Keep it simple. Swap your regular milk for almond or oat milk. Try coconut yogurt instead of cream-based desserts and notice how your body feels. The changes can be subtle at first: a little less stiffness in the morning, a bit more energy during the day, but over time they build. Food is not just calories, it's information. Every sip, every bite sends a message to your cells to inflame or to heal. When you choose gut-friendly, anti-inflammatory foods, your body responds with relief. It starts to trust again, to calm the internal storms that once seemed endless. You don't have to give up all your favorite flavors, you just have to find the versions that love you back. Have you ever noticed your joints feeling lighter or less achy after switching away from dairy? Share your experience. Someone else might be waiting to hear the same message of hope. Alcohol, processed snacks, and hidden additives are some of the sneakiest culprits behind joint pain and chronic inflammation. Not because they always cause immediate symptoms, but because they silently wear the body down from the inside out. It often starts subtly: a little swelling in the hands after a night out, stiffness in the knees after a weekend of junk food, or a lingering sense of fatigue that doesn't seem to lift. These are the body's early warning signs, small flares from a system overwhelmed by toxins, sugar, and oxidative stress. Each sip, each processed bite may seem harmless, but over time, they create a perfect storm inside the body's delicate network connecting the gut, liver, and joints. Alcohol plays a bigger role than most people realize. The liver's job is to filter and detoxify everything that enters the bloodstream, but when it's busy breaking down alcohol, it produces toxic byproducts like acetaldehyde, substances that not only damage liver cells, but also trigger a cascade of oxidative stress throughout the body. Picture your liver as a hardworking sponge meant to soak up impurities. Alcohol wrings it out dry, leaving it less capable of neutralizing the inflammatory molecules that attack your joints. And once the liver becomes sluggish or fatty, these toxins don't stay contained. They circulate through the bloodstream, irritating joint tissues and amplifying arthritis symptoms. Now add processed snacks to the mix: chips, crackers, cookies, instant noodles, all of which are packed with refined oils, preservatives, and flavor enhancers. These ultra-processed foods are designed to hit your brain's reward system, not to nourish your body. They're often loaded with trans fats and excessive omega-6 oils that drive chronic inflammation, and they contain additives like monosodium glutamate, MSG, that can overstimulate nerve cells and promote swelling in already sensitive joints. Imagine your cells like tiny engines. When fed clean fuel, they run smoothly, but when fueled by these artificial ingredients, they misfire, generating more free radicals, the sparks that burn joint tissues from within. Hidden preservatives and flavoring agents are especially deceptive because they appear in foods that don't seem unhealthy at first glance. Canned soups, salad dressings, frozen meals, and sauces are often filled with emulsifiers, coloring agents, and stabilizers. These compounds can disrupt the gut microbiome, the community of bacteria that keeps your immune system balanced. When these good bacteria are damaged, the gut lining becomes porous, a condition known as leaky gut. This allows toxins and inflammatory molecules to escape into the bloodstream, where they can trigger an immune attack on your own tissues, including the joints. The result is stiffness, swelling, and pain that seem unrelated to food but are deeply connected to it. This gut-liver joint connection is one of the most fascinating and overlooked pathways in chronic inflammation. When the gut barrier breaks down, bacteria and toxins flow into the liver for processing. But a weakened liver can't handle the overload, leading to fat accumulation, oxidative damage, and inflammation that spreads systemically. That same inflammation that irritates the arteries, contributing to heart disease, also inflames the synovial membranes in the joints. In a sense, the gut, liver, and joints are part of one conversation happening beneath the surface. When one is inflamed, all three suffer. Healing, then, isn't just about easing joint pain. It's about restoring harmony across this entire axis. This is where dietary choices and fasting can be truly transformative. By shifting to anti-inflammatory, whole food eating, fresh vegetables, berries, nuts, olive oil, herbs, lean proteins, and omega-3 rich fish, you give your cells the raw materials they need to repair and regenerate. These foods calm the immune system, neutralize free radicals, and strengthen the gut lining, reducing the constant immune leak that drives inflammation. Intermittent fasting adds another layer of healing by allowing the gut and liver time to rest and detoxify. During fasting periods, insulin levels drop, the body clears out damaged cells through autophagy, and inflammation begins to subside. It's like giving your internal systems a reset button, a daily opportunity for repair and renewal. One man once shared that after years of struggling with joint pain and relying on painkillers, what finally brought him relief wasn't another medication. It was eliminating alcohol, cutting processed foods, and practicing a 16-8 fasting routine. Within a month, his morning stiffness was gone, his energy skyrocketed, and his blood work showed improved liver function. He said it was as if his body finally stopped fighting itself. His story isn't unique. It's a reflection of what happens when we remove the silent saboteurs and let the body's natural healing systems do their work. Taking back control over your health isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. Every meal, every drink, every snack is a choice, a message you send to your body. Will it be one of inflammation or one of healing? The power lies in your daily habits. It's not a quick fix, not a miracle pill, but a steady reclaiming of your health one choice at a time. You don't have to do everything overnight. Maybe start with one small change. Replace that nightly glass of wine with herbal tea. Swap your chips for a handful of walnuts or roasted chickpeas. Choose real ingredients over labels you can't pronounce. Each choice becomes a vote for a future with less pain, more energy, and stronger joints. It's not about restriction, it's about liberation. The moment you start treating food as medicine, your body begins to remember how to heal. What's one small change you can make today to reduce inflammation and take control of your health? Share it in the comments. Your story might be the spark that helps someone else start their own healing journey.